UFC Baku, Fiziev versus Torres was a wild card, and I'm going to recap the whole thing, going through every fight, starting with the prelims and ending with the main event. First fight we had was Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento, two newcomers at welterweight. And this fight was pretty awful for the most part. Jefferson Nascimento was just sort of running away, and Abdullayev was not able to really close the distance effectively, getting really frustrated. There was a lot of weird stuff in this fight. Abdullayev started complaining to the ref that Nascimento wasn't attempting the fight, that he was just staying on the retreat. And the ref actually spoke to Nascimento, telling him, hey, you can't be retreating so much. And he was engaging a little bit. I guess I could kind of see, how it's appropriate for the ref to do that, but didn't matter in the end, because in the third round, Abdullayev got on top and pounded Jefferson Nascimento out. That was kind of an early stoppage too, so again, the fight was just kind of weird and sketchy overall. I thought if someone was going to get a late finish, it'd be Nascimento, because Abdullayev has suspect cardio, but obviously Nascimento came in with a bizarre game plan. Didn't do anything to tire out. Abdullayev was just running away, put on his track shoes. And yeah, I'm kind of glad Nascimento lost, because he fought like a bitch. Moving on, we got John Matsumoto versus Beksa Almakhan, and I didn't think this was a good decision. John Matsumoto, who usually goes to close split decisions, actually got a unanimous nod from the judges here. One judge gave Matsumoto round 1, even though Almakhan dropped him. Thought that was really weird. A lot of people were saying round 2 was close and that Matsumoto should have won that round. I thought you could have given it to Almakhan, but I actually thought Almakhan won round 3. It was a good fight, started off slow. John Matsumoto eventually picked up the pressure, which caused him to eat a lot of big shots from Almakhan, but toward the end of each round, he would start to get Almakhan tired, land some good shots of his own, and he did land some takedowns, although couldn't really control Almakhan much, so those weren't really a factor. Yeah, good fight, just really weird decision. I would have given it to Almakhan. I'm kind of surprised Matsumoto got a unanimous nod there. Then we had Daniil Danchenko taking on Theodore Berggren. Berggren was filling in for short notice because Andreas Gustafsson couldn't make the fight, and yeah, it was interesting. I didn't really know how Berggren was going to fare at the UFC level. Hadn't been knocked out in his career yet, but wasn't sure how he was going to take strikes from Danchenko. Danchenko was landing a lot of really hard strikes. Berggren, as always, pressuring forward. Looked like maybe toward the end of the fight, for as long as it lasted, he was starting to wear down Danchenko, but Danchenko was landing hard, low kicks, landing really impactful shots, seemed to hurt Berggren in round 1, and then in round 2, when it looked like maybe Berggren could take over, Danchenko whacks him with a beautiful head kick, finishes him, and gives Berggren his first KO loss. So Daniil Danchenko, the win streak continues. Still not 100% sold on this guy. I think when he goes up against the right opponent, he's going to be in real trouble. But so far, the level of competition he's facing, he seems to be doing all right. This next one surprised me a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. Con Offley, clubs and subs, Javier Reyes. So I thought Reyes was going to win this fight most likely. I did say in my breakdown video, the win outcome I see for Offley is the club and sub. He hurts him on the feet and then maybe catches him in a guillotine. I knew that was a possibility. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But Reyes, looked really, really bad. I know his footwork's not too good. He's not too good defensively to begin with. But this looked really hesitant and wasn't able to get anything going. Offley whacked him, which I didn't think would happen just because Offley doesn't have a lot of power. But once he got Reyes hurt, he had him in a world of trouble. Offley is very, very good in the jiu-jitsu realm, and he finished him with a beautiful arm triangle. And that is the third straight win for Offley. He's now 3-2 in the UFC, and he's been an underdog each time, so Offley continues to surprise people. Good win from him. Next, Nursultan Ruziboev against Andrei Pulayev. I think a lot of people thought this fight would be boring, but no, not the case. Ruziboev actually caught a kick, turned it into a single leg takedown, got Pulayev away from the cage, took his back, and then just choked him unconscious. So pretty clean and flawless win from Ruziboev. The fight was not boring, as many people expected. Ruziboev got the wrestling and grappling going. And showed that you don't want to mess around with him on the ground. Just ran right through Pulayev like a hot knife through butter. So good win for Ruziboev. Speaking of running through someone like a hot knife through butter, Abdul Rahman Yakyayev. We gotta give this guy a round of applause because he's out here setting records. Apparently that was the 7th fastest finish in UFC history. 2nd fastest in the light heavyweight division. Just goes out there, whacks Julius Walker with an overhand, puts him pretty much out cold. Has to finish with a few ground strikes. If he didn't have to finish with the ground strikes, it probably would have been about the fastest in UFC history. But flawless win. When you just throw one punch essentially and put your opponent out, you're doing pretty well. Super impressive stuff. Awesome to see. Such a fast finish. A historic finish. And you gotta question the IQ of Julius Walker. He just walked right in with a power jab. Complete disregard of what's coming back from Yakyayev, a guy with a lot of power. And yeah, just planted that overhand perfectly past the jab and sent Walker to the shadow realm. So yeah, clearly Yakhyayev needs a step up in competition at this point. Look at his UFC fight so far, his Contender Series fight. He's just running through all these guys, so yeah, he needs a little bit more resistance, but we can appreciate the way the UFC is at least trying to build him up. And the featured prelim was Farman Hasanov versus Eric Nolan making his debut. So we know Hasanov gets tired, but the problem is, in this fight, it didn't matter at all just because one thing I don't think people took into account was how bad Nolan's takedown defense is. Sure, Nolan can keep getting back up to his feet when down, but the fact that he's terrible at defending takedowns means Hasanov doesn't have to apply that much effort to get him down. Even if Hasanov is tired, he can just find those takedowns over and over. And even though Nolan was getting some knockouts prior to coming to the UFC, even though he hurt Basangur Sisterkayev in his debut, I don't think Nolan's striking is that great, and at times, Hasanov was actually outstriking him a little bit, just with jabs and overhands. So Hasanov gets a 30-27, pretty easy for him. Just another guy who's going to have to fight someone who's going to give a little more resistance. There are a lot of bums in the welterweight division, so I think there are quite a few people who Hasanov can beat easily, but obviously if someone's a good grappler and has good takedown defense, they can give him trouble by making him tired and then hurting him on the feet. And we kicked off the main card with Abu Magomedov taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Was interested to see how Michal's grappling was going to hold up here. He was kind of hesitant, wasn't pressuring forward as much as he normally does. And Abu, I think, tried to get a takedown against the fence, was looking for a trip of some sort. Couldn't quite get Michal down, but it mattered not because Abu planted a beautiful elbow right on Michal's face and dropped him. And from there, it's all she wrote. We know Michal is a submission magnet. He can't fight out of a submission to save his life. So Abu, a good grappler in his own right, wrapped up a guillotine and submitted Michal in round 1. So clean win from Abu there. Good, because I'm not so sure how many more wins he's going to be able to get. Again, like with welterweight, there are a bunch of bums in the middleweight division. So Abu can still probably beat a lot of people even late in his career. But obviously now that he's getting older, I don't know if he's going to be able to take on a lot of these good fighters. So good for him to get a win against a decent fighter in Michal. Then we had Ikram Aliskerov versus Bruno Ferreira. Complete domination from Aliskerov. It really looked like he could win the fight however he chose, because was doing really well in the striking, managed distance really well, was landing jabs, piecing up Ferreira, and then being able to back up out of the pocket whenever Ferreira fired back. So looked like Aliskerov could have just dominated on the feet, but every time he backed him to the fence, made him show up, he just level changed in the takedowns, got them pretty easily, was able to control Ferreira quite a bit, and yeah, did everything except for finish the fight. Couldn't quite find a submission, but I believe he got Ferreira down in every round and outstruck him pretty good. So yeah, it looked like Aliskerov could have won that fight however he wanted. If he had him in a parlay, that was an easy cash. And yeah, he did extremely well in that fight against Ferreira. This next fight was a great performance from Almabayev, but also kind of sad for Charles Johnson. He's absolutely cooked. He had no prayer in that fight by the looks. I think in the past, you would have seen Johnson fight out of positions a little bit better. I think he would have done a bit better on the feet, but yeah, I think all the weight cuts, all the fights at 35 years of age, are starting to take their toll on him. He does not look the same. Couldn't really put anything together and got dominated on the feet, like with calf kicks and overhands. Got taken down really easily and got controlled very easily. I thought the fight was going to end up going to decision, but before the fight ended, Almabayev pulls out a submission, a Salayev stretch. A submission we don't see too often. I think the last time we saw a mainstream sort of fight was when Wes Schultz found a Sulayev stretch in his Contender Series win. So amazing performance from Asu Almabayev. Kind of sad for Charles Johnson. This was his third fight of 2026. And prior to this year, he had never been finished before. But now, he's been finished twice. He got finished in January against Alex Perez by KO. Now he's getting finished by submission. So Charles Johnson, I think the end is near for him, unfortunately. And Asu Almabayev called his shot. He wants to fight for the title. Of course, that's probably not going to happen right away. Might have to win another fight, maybe against a guy like my boy Tatsuro Taira. But great stuff from Almabayev. Then this next one, I think, surprised quite a few people because I heard on Tapology, Nazim Sadikov was the guy most people picked. A higher proportion of people picked Sadikov than any other fighter on the card. But if Sadikov gets dropped early in round 1, eats some ground and pound, and the ref stops the fight. Some people claimed it was a premature stoppage. I don't think so. I think Camilo would have been able to finish that fight if it went on for a few more seconds. And yeah, Sadikov's durability is cooked. That's not good for him because he has to lean on his durability. Now, like I've said earlier, he has not much skill. He's not much of a grappler. He doesn't have good footwork. He's not a great athlete. Gets hit a lot. So in order for him to succeed, he really has to lean on that durability. And he got finished in his last fight against Ziam via KO. And he's getting finished again by Camilo. So looks like the durability's gone. And if he loses that, he's absolutely cooked. So yeah, we'll have to keep that in mind going forward. But Camilo gets a good win. But then keep in mind about Camilo, if he ever gets out of that first round, if people can apply pressure on him, he starts to break. So we can't overreact too much to this win. I think the big takeaway is that Nazim Sadikov is pretty much cooked. And speaking of being cooked, holy cow, was this an interesting fight. Charles Magomedov taking on Michel Pereira. So Pereira managed to do the one thing that gives him a chance to win fights, and that is hurt his opponent within the first 2 minutes or so. He drops Magomedov, but then can't quite get Magomedov out of there. Magomedov survived, and the remainder of the fight was just brutal. I thought Magomedov was going to be a lot more dominant. I did think he'd win by decision, but the volume was really low from him. That might have been due to the damage he sustained in round 1. I think his nose might have gotten busted up, and of course, that impacts his breathing, and then probably would impact his output. So it was pretty low output for rounds 2 and 3. Magomedov obviously doing the better work. You can't not outwork Pereira because the guy doesn't do anything. And yeah, just a really, really ugly fight. Pereira needs to be ashamed of himself. I don't get how these fighters can have such bad stamina, but Pereira's the worst of all. Like, literally, if you get him past 3 minutes of the first round, he's done. He's got nothing left. I can't believe people don't talk about how bad his stamina is. Like, literally, you just have to survive the first few minutes, then you should be able to beat him really easily. So yeah, disgraceful stuff, but Charles Magomedov gets another win. Yeah, has a super impressive record, only one loss. Kind of hard to believe after that performance, but he gets it done, takes out another tomato can in Pereira. And finally, the main event. This was incredible stuff. Rafael Fiziev finishes Manuel Torres in round 2. So this is the first time we've ever seen Torres go past round 1 in the UFC. In his professional career, he has one fight that's gone past the first round, and he won that by split decision. But yeah, it didn't go too much further after round 1 because Rafael Fiziev planted a beautiful wheel kick on Torres. I think he even sort of partially blocked it with his hand, but it mattered not. Torres got rocked, got sent back, and then Fiziev finished the job with punches, and that was all she wrote. Torres, I think, did sort of wobble Fiziev with a jab at the end of round 1. Ultimately, Fiziev did a good job of not eating too many big shots. Was able to have a little success in the grappling realm, found some takedowns, and yeah, just a masterclass performance. I thought his durability might be waning and that it might catch him here, but nope, he was able to get Torres out of there before Torres could get Fiziev out of there. So tremendous win by Fiziev. Looking forward to seeing more from him. And yeah, obviously every Torres fight is fun, so I'm looking forward to seeing more from him too. He's absolutely huge, giant in the weight class. So overall, we got several finishes on this card, including some monumental stuff. We got the extremely fast finish from Yakhyayev. I think Farman Hassanov set some welterweight records with the amount of takedowns he was getting. Then we saw the wheel kick KO in the main event. We saw Sulayev stretch. Really an incredible card from an entertainment perspective. Really good to see. For me, in terms of bets and stuff, like I've got to get back on track. Was doing pretty well at the beginning of the year, but the month of June has just absolutely obliterated me, getting cooked brutally. So yeah, we got to bounce back for the second half of the year, but I'm not too worried. We're just on a bit of a skid right now, and going forward, the cards will fall more in our favor. If you enjoyed this recap, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment. Seriously, for the love of God, comment about anything. Nice comment, mean comment, comment about cake. So, obviously, next week we're going to be off for the UFC. But when we come back from that week off, we got Conor McGregor's return. So stay tuned for that. We got plenty of cards for the remainder of the summer. I'll see you guys later. Peace.